from Salem and her staff for advancing the legislation through the Rules Committee.
We can hear you on the English channel.
Report. My friend, the senator from Springfield.
There you go. Thank you.
Who's been a co-lead on this effort, and as soon as he came into the Senate, hit the ground running and has been a crucial part of our team. To all the staff, those here today and those who have left over the roughly 20 years this bill's been filed, thank you for all of your diligence and your continued commitment and support. And of course, we wouldn't be here today without the tireless advocacy from so many endorsing organizations, many who are with us in the gallery today, and in particular, the Driving Family Forward Coalition, for their unwavering dedication and support. Thank you. Lastly, to the thousands of Massachusetts residents who have called, written, testified, attended a hearing or briefing, talked to their friends and family, thank you for sharing your personal stories, for letting us know the fear and anxiety that you and your families feel every day, and how this bill will make your lives much easier. Massachusetts, we have two options for driver's licenses. The Real ID, which meets the strict federal standards and enables individuals to also board a flight or to enter a federal building. And we have the standard driver's license, which allows individuals to drive. The Work and Family Mobility Act does not include anything relevant to the Real ID, so just put that aside. It will only allow for eligible drivers in Massachusetts to apply and earn a standard driver's license. Under this provision of this bill, an applicant will need to meet our existing qualifications for licensure, including proof of identity, birth date, and residency. And after many long conversations with a wide range of stakeholders, including members of law enforcement, we have created identity requirements that include one document must be a foreign passport or a consular identification document, and the other document must be a driver's license from any U.S. state or territory, an original or certified copy of birth certificate, foreign national ID card, foreign driver's license, or a marriage certificate or divorce decree issued by a U.S. state or territory. This bill also protects the personal information of the applicants by prohibiting the RMV from asking about or keeping records of citizenship or immigration status for the standard license holders and applicants. This is a well-vetted, well-supported piece of legislation. You've earned the support of the major city chiefs associations, the Massachusetts District Attorney Association, and 59 individual law enforcement leaders, because they recognize that this will make our roads safer for everyone. Law enforcement officers have cited improved safety conditions that will come with the passage of this bill. They can do their jobs more safely and more efficiently when they can quickly identify who is behind the wheel of a car. This will also help promote trust between officers and the communities they serve. And as seen in other states that have passed similar legislation, we have seen a decreased amount of hit and runs and also a decreased level of uninsured drivers. Offering more opportunities to earn a license will only ensure that all drivers of the road are aware of the rules and regulations they need to know to get places safely. And I think that we can all agree that our roads are safer for all. Every driver has passed a written test, a road test, a division test, and subsequently has purchased insurance. We've heard so many powerful stories of what tangible impact having a driver's license would mean for so many families here in Massachusetts. For many residents of the Commonwealth, especially outside of the greater Boston area, it's virtually impossible to get around without a car. In a state where 78% of our workforce relies on personal vehicles to get to their jobs, having a driver's license is a critical part of personal and economic mobility. The pandemic has made this legislation even more vital than it was just a few years ago. So many of the jobs that were needed, so many of our frontline workers relied on public transportation, but in many areas that is simply not met and simply not suitable for the hours that they work and the schedules that they keep. So many members of our immigrant communities are the very same individuals that we praise for working on the front lines and keeping our Commonwealth running during the height of the virus. A driver's license can give families more reliable and safe access to their work, to the medical appointments, vaccination, or COVID tests. I think just as important is that I talk about what this bill does here today, I think it should also shed light on what it doesn't. It will not change our immigration system. It will not provide a pathway towards citizenship. It will not offer additional public benefits, and it will not change the voting registration process or existing laws about voting eligibility. The law as it is today will be the same if this bill passes. Only United States citizens are allowed to register to vote. And under current Massachusetts law, there are many non-United States citizens that have driver's license but cannot register to vote, including green card holders, DACA or TPS recipients, or those with student or work visas. Getting a standard driver's license in Massachusetts means that you've demonstrated who you are, that you have the ability to safely operate a vehicle. It does not mean that you have the right to vote. That is the case today, and again, that will be the case after, or God willing, when this bill is passed. Additionally, there's already other safeguards in place. When we talk about automatic voter registration, the RMV, Mass Health, and the Health Connector collect information about lawful presence and will not submit the names to local election officials unless they have deemed that that person is a United States citizen. Lastly, every license application requires an individual swear under oath that they are a United States citizen, and it informs them that illegal voter registration is a crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison or up to a $10,000 fine. What's not mentioned in that fine print is that for our immigrants without status, the additional penalties will likely mean deportation, loss of their jobs, their homes, their families, and potentially never to return to our country again. Again, this bill will not change our voter registration process. This is about individuals earning a driver's license. In closing, there are many reasons to support this legislation, whether it's the public safety, public health, social justice issues, economic mobility, our general economy here in Massachusetts. It just makes sense, and it is the right thing to do for the 185,000 immigrants without status and their families who are our students, our neighbors, our co-workers, our families, and our friends. They were our frontline workers who we hailed as heroes, yet they were forced to break the law. We have a tremendous opportunity here to advance this bill and make it easier for what many of us take for granted every day, dropping our kids off at school, going to work, going to a medical appointment, going to the grocery store, or just simply visiting their families. It is time for Massachusetts to join the 16 other states who have passed similar legislation. I hope that you will join me in voting yes on this bill today, and I ask when the vote be taken, it be taken by a call of the yeas and nays.
Ask when a vote is taken on this matter to be taken by a call of the yeas and nays. More than sufficient having arisen, the yeas and nays will be ordered when a vote is taken. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Hamden, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the members, the bill that I rise to speak on today is one I was very proud to co-lead on when I first entered the Senate. As a proud Puerto Rican, Boricua, and the state senator from a district that is rich in diversity, I know that this bill will benefit generations of families across the Commonwealth. Our state is rich in diversity and rich in its sense of community. Today, we are voting on behalf of a part of that rich community that has been forgotten so many times by society. As elected officials, we represent all those communities, whether or not they're able to vote for us. Because my community in the north end of Springfield cannot wait anymore. I know that today we'll be making history passing this essential piece of legislation. Alongside my colleague, Senator Crichton, with the support of Senate President Spilka, and the outstanding work from the Driving Families Forward Coalition, we've now reached the finish line. As an elected official, we must weigh our moral compass and needs of our unique constituencies. When I examine this bill through both lenses, it is clear to me that this is a no-brainer. As the Senate Chair of Children, Families, and Persons with Disabilities, ensuring that children in our Commonwealth have the best possible outcomes is paramount to my legislative decisions. When I examine this bill through that lens, and when I learn that 1 in 20 U.S. citizen children living in Massachusetts live at least with one undocumented family member, I knew that it would not only benefit public safety, mobility, and the economy, it would also benefit our young people. Allowing parents to drive their kids to school, take them to doctor's appointments, or to be in charge of carpooling, maybe to take their kids to soccer, all without the concern that they may be separated if they are pulled over, will allow children of undocumented residents to breathe and have a sigh of relief. Undocumented residents are our neighbors, our friends, our fellow community members. This legislation would give them the same opportunities and comfort that many of us take for granted. The ability to drive, the ability to take a job in another community that might not have public transportation, the ability to go grocery shopping for their families, all without fear that they might be pulled over and have a negative interaction with law enforcement. Immigrants eligible for driver's license would not be registered to vote as a result of applying. The concern that this will increase voter fraud and delegitimize our elections is not only factually incorrect, it is a red herring. Right now, there are systems in place to prevent people who are not yet citizens but have a driver's license from voting. These safeguards allow non-citizens residing in our state, such as international students, people here on a work visa, permanent residents, and many others, to have a valid Massachusetts driver's license and at the same time ensure they don't register to vote. We pass this legislation knowing that our elections will remain sound and secure. The work of the Driving Families Forward Coalition has been met with ringing endorsements from across the Commonwealth, the community, faith-based organizations, business groups, and as well as the Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey, the Massachusetts District Attorney Association, the Massachusetts Major Cities Chiefs of Police Associations and sheriffs, and a number of other law enforcement agents. I'd also like to give a special thanks to my partners back home for their steadfast and unwavering support on this bill. Hampden County Sheriff Kochi and Hampden County District Attorney Gallooni. The numerous endorsements that this bill received sends a clear message that this bill makes sense economically and it will improve public safety on our roads. Our counterparts in the House, Rep. Farley Bouvier of Pittsfield and Rep. Barber of Somerville, have already done the legwork in getting this bill over to us. It is time that we join hand in hand and the other 16 other states that have implemented these measures allowing undocumented residents to obtain driver's licenses to uphold and protect public safety. I look forward to today's debate and seeing this bill ultimately pass. Thank you. Si se puede.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I rise in strong support of the Work and Family Mobility Act. Truly an historic day. And I first just want to thank the Senate President for her eternal compassion for immigrants throughout her career as a legislator. The Senate President and I share a region of Massachusetts, Metro West, that has become increasingly diverse. And we have heard from many of those immigrant communities about the need to pass this legislation for many, many years. So I want to thank her for her strong support for this legislation. I want to thank the Senate Chair of the Rules Committee, the lady from Salem, for her strong work in support of this bill and bringing it to the floor of the Senate today. To the Senate sponsors of this legislation, the gentleman from Lynn and the gentleman from Springfield, for their extremely effective work over the past 2 years to bring this bill forward to the Senate. I know that both of them have very diverse districts, that this would make a tremendous difference for many of the constituents, just as it would make a big difference for many of my constituents, Mr. President. And I also want to thank the various Transportation Committee chairs over the past 2 sessions for showing that the Senate has been a very strong supporter of this legislation over the past couple sessions. That includes the gentleman from Quincy most recently, as well as the gentleman now from Lynn. And then, of course, last session and leading up to part of this session, the gentleman formerly in the Senate from Winthrop, who was a very strong advocate for this bill to get out of committee last session. Mr. President, when we think about getting a driver's license, I don't know about anyone else, but my memory of getting my driver's license is it's a real moment of freedom. It's part of the American pastime, the road to freedom, to have that license, to be able to travel wherever you wish. And I think it's critical that we make sure that every single eligible resident have access to getting a driver's license in Massachusetts. Now, Mr. President, as someone who has advocated for this bill since the beginning of my time as a legislator, I've spoken as a state senator to many of the Brazilian churches in my district. And at many of those churches, after the pastor gave his sermon and I had the chance to say a few words to the congregation, I'm looking out on small business owners, on hardworking constituents who came to this country to provide a better life for their children. I see frontline workers who woke up every morning during the pandemic to go to work to make sure that basic services were provided to all of us. I see and I saw people who often do the work that many other Massachusetts residents don't want to do, taking action to care for our children, to clean our houses, to make our yards more beautiful, and to keep the construction industry booming across Massachusetts. When I speak at these churches after the service, the #1 request from many of the people in that congregation is to be able to get a driver's license. Now, why is this so important? Because it's not just about public safety, Mr. President, and it's not just about the economy. It's much, much more personal and really kind of obvious. Now, in Massachusetts, we're all reliant, of course, on transportation to live our lives. And for the majority of residents, that means by car. To drive our kids to school, to bring our kids to the doctors, to visit family and friends, to enjoy all that Massachusetts has to offer. But it gets a little more personal for many of the people in those churches that I regularly speak to, Mr. President, because of the connection between our state laws and sometimes our resources and our federal immigration system. I'm talking about family separation. Now, as the Senate sponsor of the Safe Communities Act, I am well aware of the intricacies, the interweaving of our state laws sometimes, public personnel, state resources, and how that can lead to families being ripped apart by interacting with a broken immigration system. Now, the memory that I keep in my mind, not only on this bill, but many others, is in my Marlboro district office, sitting across the table from a mother and her daughter, talking to me about what happened to her husband. Her husband was among a group of immigrant workers driving in a van in Metro West that was pulled over by the police, where unfortunately none of those employees, none of those workers, including my constituent, had a driver's license. And because of a number of unfortunate factors, that father was deported back to Brazil. And I want to be clear that this happened not during the Trump administration, but during the Obama administration. And what happened, of course, to that family was family separation. And the reason I remember that meeting so vividly, Mr. President, is because of what the daughter said. And what she said was that she still couldn't go to places in her hometown and across Massachusetts when her daughter brought her because of all the trauma it would bring back, knowing that her daughter, her father, was now back in Brazil, thousands of miles away from her and her mother. So, Mr. President, by passing the Work and Family Mobility Act, we are eliminating a key and unfortunate path to mass deportation in Massachusetts. And thinking about the timeline of this, I want to thank the Driving Families Forward Coalition and many other organizations that were part of this effort over the past 13 years that really started around that time. So, Mr. President, I described the lowest moment, perhaps the worst outcome of the interaction between individuals not being able to get a license in our broken immigration system when we don't have the Work and Family Mobility Act is the law of the Commonwealth. So we have the chance to change this today. And what this is about quality of life. It's about expanding people's freedom. It's about public safety. And it's about a basic dignity and security to go about your life day to day and not worry about what could happen if you get in an accident or get pulled over by the police or have an unfortunate altercation on the road. Now, there's no words that can be as eloquent as those that are actually directly impacted. And again, I have sat across the table from families that have been separated. I have gone to those churches. I have had meetings with many members of the immigrant community in my district to talk about the importance of having a driver's license. I asked one of those constituents if she could just tell me briefly what passing the Work and Family Mobility Act would mean to her. Now, this is someone who is a photographer, who started her own business, who I see at virtually every community event I go to across Massachusetts, especially with the Brazilian community, who is doing everything possible to give back to Massachusetts and to provide a better life for her children. And what she said to me this morning was, what this bill means for me and my family, for all mom and dads and their families who care about this state, who pay taxes, who pay a mortgage, we're investing in the state. We have lived here for 21 years. We want the freedom to go to work, to drive our kids to school, to drive without fears, just to do our best to keep this state growing. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the Work and Family Mobility Act. And I am so proud of the Senate and all of those advocates for bringing this bill today for us to debate to vote on and hopefully to pass. So I strongly urge my colleagues at the end of this debate to vote for this bill, and let's make a major difference for hundreds of thousands of families across Massachusetts. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Suffolk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this bill on the Senate floor today brings up a lot of emotions for me. Pride, excitement, deep gratitude for the diverse, brilliant, tireless coalition of advocates who kept pushing. Thank you to the bill's lead sponsors. I think it bears repeating to Senators Crichton and Gomez, and as well to the House lead sponsors, Representative Farley Bouvier and Rep. Barber, for championing this bill. I also want to say a special class of 2009 thanks to the gentleman from Acton, Senator Eldridge, who has been fighting for this bill since our very first term in this body. And to the Senate President for prioritizing this bill and for bringing it to a vote today. This is a huge step forward on immigration policy and on workforce justice in our state. It has been a long, long road for this bill. Immigrants and allies have given time, given energy, blood, sweat, tears to this. There are too many organizations to name all of them, but I want to give a special shout out to the Driving Families Forward Coalition, steered by the leadership of SEIU 32BJ, the Brazilian Workers Center, the MIRA Coalition, and the grassroots efforts of La Colaborativa and Cosecha, and many, many others. A nuestros inmigrantes y organizaciones aliadas que están aquí con nosotros hoy, y como también a los que sin estar aquí en este edificio hoy, pero han estado con nosotros en este largo, largo camino. Gracias. Obrigado por sus esfuerzos. Ustedes han dado su tiempo, energía, sudor, lágrimas a este proyecto de ley. Ustedes han contribuido a nuestra economía y a nuestras comunidades durante muchos años. Su trabajo, su liderazgo, su lucha nos ha traído a este momento histórico. The folks in this gallery, and many who are not here today, have organized, they've rallied, they've made calls, written letters, shown up to testify, crunched the numbers, shared their personal stories and their vulnerability. And what they've shown us is this. First, that the Work and Family Mobility Act is a common sense public safety bill that will make the roads safer for everyone. This is a point that has been belabored many times. I won't go into all of the detail, but simply want to give one example of here's what the laws like this have meant in some of the other states that have passed them in terms of increasing the safety on their roads. In New Mexico, there was a 60% drop in uninsured drivers after they passed their similar bill. In Utah, it was an 80% drop, 9% fewer hit and run crashes in Connecticut, and 10 fewer in California. And there are law enforcement leaders across Massachusetts, the major city chiefs of police, a majority of sheriffs and district attorneys who have recognized the huge public safety benefits of this bill, who have shown up and supported this legislation since before it was a foregone conclusion, and they helped to get us to this point. And to them, I also want to say thank you. Second, Mr. President, this law will generate millions of dollars in economic benefits, allowing people to get to and from economic opportunities and activities, and will allow more employers to have more access to more workforce. It will also generate $5 million in projected new revenue from driver's licenses, increased car registrations, titles, inspections, and so on. And then third, Mr. President, and perhaps above all, this bill means trust and dignity for immigrants in our state who lack federal status. Without a license, a routine traffic stop can have a lasting and traumatic set of repercussions. Arrests, ICE detention, deportation, It can tear families apart. And that is a heavy, heavy burden to carry that fear through the daily activities of one's life. And on the other hand, Mr. President, a license means so much more than just a license. It means safe, reliable transportation to get to doctor's appointments, the grocery store, work. It means access to opportunities like education. There are around 15,000 people in Massachusetts without federal status because of our dysfunctional federal immigration system. 16,000 people without that federal status who go to work every day at hospitals, supermarkets, and other essential jobs in our economy here in Massachusetts. They shouldered the risk and the sacrifice throughout this pandemic, keeping our economy running, caring for the sick and the elderly in hospitals, in nursing homes, keeping food stocked at grocery stores, delivering our takeout. They powered us through this crisis. We depended on them, even when they were cut off from federal aid and assistance. We owe them. We owe them a debt beyond what driver's licenses alone can pay. But this bill is indeed a needed thank you. Driver's licenses will provide Bay Staters without federal status and their families dignity, assurance, and respect. And speaking of dignity, Mr. President, I want to talk for a moment about the cruelty that members of the immigrant community still face, even after all of their contributions and their sacrifice. Now, as a woman of color in politics, I deal with pretty ugly commentary on the regular. It's not something that, has pushed me out of this profession. I've been hearing sexist and racist comments my whole life, but certainly in this role over the past 13 years. But the debate around this bill in particular has stirred up a rise in hateful sentiments toward immigrants. When the House took up this bill earlier this year, I tweeted my support. And in response, here's one example of what a person said to me online. You and your type are ruining this once great Commonwealth. I hope you get run over by a drunk illegal and see how you feel. You and your type. Now, I'm very proud to be the daughter of an immigrant. I'm very proud of my type, as this person inartfully put it. But this sentiment is out there, and this xenophobia hurts people. Those words can't summon a car to run me over, but they can and they do have a direct impact on immigrants, making them feel isolated and afraid. And those words can and do influence people around them, emboldening others to say hateful, xenophobic things, and ultimately, sometimes, to do hateful and xenophobic acts. And also by discouraging people of conscience from speaking out the more that we hear and these kinds of sentiments get normalized in our society. The narrative that immigrants are hurting our state rather than adding to it, rather than making Massachusetts a stronger, better, more vibrant, more prosperous place to live, is just flat out wrong, Mr. President. And this vote today is an opportunity to reject that narrative. And I want to say to that gentle person on Twitter who sent me those choice words, I don't hope the same thing back on you that you have wished for me and for my type. I only hope that you can come to notice those of my type that are providing care for your aging parent, or keeping our hospitals clean during pandemic, or keeping your toddler's daycare open over the past 2 years, or their children who are inventing the cancer treatment that you may need 5 years from now. That is what I wish back for the people who offer up those sentiments, like the one that I received on Twitter as this debate has come up in our state. This vote today is an opportunity to reject that narrative, to push back on this form of hate, to make it clear that not only do we disagree with those ideas, but we will stand against them proudly and publicly. It is on us to be louder than those voices, to say that immigrants have a long and rich history of contributing to this Commonwealth, and they have the same right to safety and basic dignity. Getting ready to vote yes on this bill today. This change cannot come soon enough. Thank you, Mr. President, and to all of my colleagues who have had a hand in bringing this bill to the floor today.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Worcester, Hamden, Hampshire, and Middlesex. Ms. Goby.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I know that today's vote is a result of a very long legislative process, and I acknowledge the hard work of so many people, including gentlemen from Springfield and Lynn and Acton. And I know that I have no doubt that this will pass today, and that the voices of so many people.
Wait, Laura, did you?
Oh, just a very quick pause to explain what's happening.
Yeah.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're going to continue to hear speeches from senators, mostly in favor. And then I think we're going to move to the amendments. But one thing that happened very quickly, and we almost missed it, was that when our lead sponsor, Senator Crichton, got up first, he asked the chair if when the moment to vote happens, we could do a yay or nay vote, which means that they're not going to go senator by senator. They're just going to ask yays, like yes or no, and they will just hear the sound of the room, and the sound of the yays will be so overwhelming that it will be clear that we have won. So they only do that if they feel good about that the vote is going one way or not the other. So I think it's a really, really good sign for us that we have so many votes that they're not even going to go senator by senator.
Also, it looks like Senator Bruce Tarr is up next, who is a minority leader. So I think for just some folks, he might be spewing some hateful, anti-immigrant, racist, xenophobic sentiment. So if folks want to mute or just step away from your computer for the next couple minutes so you just don't have to hear anything really negative, feel free to do so right now.
Thank you, Hiba. That's very important.
Kind of
I
conversation.
will also say as people saw, Bruce Tarr filed like 15 amendments for our bill. So it's folks like Bruce Tarr that we already expected to hear opposition from. So this is not a surprise. This is nothing to worry about at this moment. It's just procedure to hear from people that want to speak.
One of those who comes to the chamber concerned about some of the provisions that are before us. Concerned because a driver's license is one of the most, if not the most recognizable, important pieces of identification in our society, bar none. And that's why so many times there's been a lot of discussion about, before today, about having appropriate eligibility and constraints on the issuance of driver's licenses for a variety of reasons that I won't get into. But it's also why today we need to be very cautious and vigilant about what we do. Now, I certainly am sensitive to the stories that have been related directly here and explained by others indirectly about some of the hardships that are involved with the inability to have a driver's license. And I understand the drive between or by those who have come to this chamber with passion and with articulation to be able to advocate for a bill of this nature. I would also suggest that we do need to be concerned about some elements of this bill and about the very thought of conveying a driver's license unless and until we do appropriate things. We've offered many of those amendments from right here in Minority Crescent. But I would also suggest that trying to ensure that our driver's licenses have integrity and that cannot be misused for various purposes, those are important things. And those things don't go away because of the hardships that we've heard about and that all of us care about. We can't be human and not care about those things. So my hope is that today, as we think about this bill and we think about its various provisions, we'll think about ways that we might act to prevent problems with its implementation. And I would suggest that that, too, is our highest responsibility, to ensure that when we act in this chamber in order to remedy one thing, that we do not cause problems for public safety and our voting system and identification, because the instrumentality that we talk about today, the driver's license, is the most recognizable and most relied upon instrument of identification in our society. I hope we'll think about that, and I hope we'll act accordingly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Gentleman from Essex and Middlesex, Mr. Tar, offers an amendment which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 2 by Mr. Tar, distinctive license.
Question comes on the adoption of the amendment. Gentleman from Essex and Middlesex.
Thank you, Mr. President, and through you to the members. Mr. President, as I had mentioned just a moment ago, one of the things that's important about a driver's license is...
Lada, do you want to maybe quickly explain what amendment number 2 is?
Oh, sure. Sorry, let me pull up my chart.
Laura, can you just explain the amendment process has started as well?
Do you want to say it?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Process. So just for everybody, what is happening now, we just heard speeches both in support, which were beautiful, and a speech or two in opposition of our bill. This is just standard procedure. And again, we expected opposition from the folks that we heard from today, including the person currently speaking, which is Senator Bruce Tar. So right now is continuing the process. They're going to go over all the amendments that were present, around 15 to 20 amendments, and they're going to slowly go through them as part of procedure before we get to the vote. So the vote has not yet happened.
Okay, and I think this is amendment number 3 he's talking about?
It's number 2, I believe they said.
Okay, and so that's the one about, yes, you're right, the distinctive licenses. So he is proposing that licenses for undocumented immigrants look totally different than licenses for everybody else. They have a different background color and a special marking on it.
I think they're voting on the amendment right now.
Amendment number 2, I do appreciate Minority Leader's comments at the outset, his thoughtful comments about the debate here today, and look forward to the discussion. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, in Massachusetts we have 2 forms of driver's licenses, the Real ID, with the more strict federal requirements being met that would allow you to board a flight as well as enter federal buildings, and we have our standard driver's license, of which we're here discussing today. Only one state, the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth, I'm not quite sure, has adopted marked licenses after the implementation of Real ID, with the 2-tier Real ID standard ID scheme. Members of law enforcement do not need a distinctive license to identify who's behind the wheel of the car. The purpose of our driver's license is for driving only. While the gentleman mentioned it may be used for other forms of identification, there is really no need for anyone to know what the citizenship status is of the drivers that we plan to earn a driver's license under this bill. It is unnecessary for these licenses to be marked in any other way. The proposed distinctive ID would lead to stigma, an opportunity for anyone to see the license to discriminate against the holder. It could have a chilling effect on what we're really trying to do here today, which is to make our roads safer. We are trying to encourage drivers across the Commonwealth to earn a driver's license, to take a test, take a road test, take a vision test, and by creating this separate ID that could discourage that and lead to our roads not seeing these safety improvements we see. I ask that members join me in voting no on this amendment. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard on the amendment? Clerk will call the roll.
Michael J. Barrett. Michael D. Brady. No. William N. Brownsberger. No. Harriet L. Chandler. Sonia Chang Diaz. No. Nick Collins. Joanne M. Comerford. No. Cynthia Stone Cream. Brendan P. Crichton. No. John J. Cronin. No. Julian Sear. Sal N. D. Domenico. Diana DiZoglio. Lydia Edwards. James B. Eldridge. No. Ryan C. Fatman.
Yes.
Yes. Paul R. Feeney. No. Barry R. Feingold. Cindy F. Friedman. No. Ann M. Goby. Yes. Adam Gomez. No. Adam G. Hines. Patricia D. Jalen. No. John F. Keenan. No. Edward J. Kennedy. No. Eric P. Lesser. Jason M. Lewis. No. Joan B. Lovely. No. Mark C. Montigny. Michael O. Moore. Yes. Susan L. Moran. Patrick M. O'Connor. Mark R. Pacheco. Rebecca L. Roush. Michael J. Rodericks. No. Michael F. Rush. Bruce E. Tarr. Yes. Walter F. Timmelty. John C. Velas.
Pursuant to the remote voting procedures adopted by the Senate, the chair will announce the vote of Senator Edwards.
Edwards. No. Patrick M. O'Connor.
Yes.
Yes. Sal N. D. Domenico. No. Nick Collins. No.
Falei que ele tinha passado, eu vi alguém passando. Foi tão rápido que eles passaram.
Looks like they're just tabulating the results right now. Yes, Mila, I think it's on me right now. Purposely, the Senate is just calculating the votes. But as a reminder for everybody, we wanted the senators to vote no on this bill, on this amendment, I'm sorry. So, good thing so far. Michael, I know it's stressful, but we're almost there, I promise. Beth asked, did they already vote on Amendment 1?
I believe Amendment 1 was withdrawn.
Yes. We're just calculating the votes right now. It's a long process. They're going to be doing that.
Pursuant to Rule 57, the court officer will ascertain the votes of several members and record them.
J. Barrett.
No.
No. Harry L. Chandler.
No.
No. Cynthia Stone Cream.
No.
No. Julian Sear.
No.
No. Diana DiZoglio.
No.
No. Barry R. Feingold.
No.
No. Adam G. Hines.
No.
No. Eric P. Lesser.
No.
No. Mark C. Montigny.
No.
No. Susan L. Moran.
No.
No. Mark R. Pacheco.
Yes.
Yes. Rebecca L. Roush.
No.
No. Michael F. Rush.
No.
No. Walter F. Timilty.
Yes.
Yes. John C. Velas.
Yes.
Yes.
Have all members been recorded?
Yes.
8 in the affirmative, 31.
8 members having voted in the affirmative, 31 in the negative. The amendment is not adopted. Same senator offers another amendment, which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 3 by Mr. Tarr, not valid for identification.
Gentleman from Essex and Middlesex.
Thank you, Mr. President, and through you to the members. Mr. President, currently, under the system that was created after the recommendation of the 9/11 committee that created real ID documents, a Massachusetts federally compliant license bears no restriction on it. However, a Massachusetts license specifically says not for federal identification purposes. This amendment borrows that technology or that methodology and would require that in a license granted pursuant to this law, that a Massachusetts license, under those circumstances, would say not for identification, because it's not intended for identification. It's intended to allow someone to operate a motor vehicle on the roads of the Commonwealth under certain conditions and certain restrictions. So in order to be consistent, and in order to make it clear that such a license is not valid for identification, bearing in mind that a license is one of the most sought after methods of identification, this would provide a safeguard, and I hope, Mr. President, that this amendment is a very straightforward amendment, is adopted, and I move that when a vote is taken on this matter, it be taken by a call of the yeas and nays.
I'm going to ask them when a vote is taken on this matter, be taken by a call of the yeas and nays. More than sufficient have arisen. The vote will be taken by a call of the yeas and nays. Gentleman from Essex, Mr. Crichton.
Through you to the members, again, appreciate the comments from the minority leader.
To answer someone's question about what Amendment 3 is, just looking at the policy team put together, it says that it requires all licenses bear the word not eligible to vote.
That looks like
Or sorry, it's a marked license. Is it a marked license?
Yes, that it's no, not to vote. That's not eligible for identification.
Okay.
That's one's coming later. So it looks like they're also going to do a yay or nay vote. So this one should hopefully go faster.
The proper identification and passing muster at the RMV. So, to this amendment and to any others that seek to create an alternative license, we believe that it would have a chilling effect on the ultimate goal of this bill to make our roads safer and to create more economic mobility for all residents of the Commonwealth, regardless of their citizenship status. I urge the members to vote no on this amendment.
Can I just say that the votes for Amendment 2 were 31-8. So if this number sticks for when the vote for the bill happens at the end, this is really, really good news for us. So good thing so far.
No. Nick Collins. Joanne M. Comerford. No. Cynthia Stone Cream. Brendan P. Crichton. No. John J. Cronin. No. Julian Sear. Sal N. D. Domenico. No. Diana DiZoglio. Lydia Edwards. James B. Eldridge. No. Ryan C. Fatman? Yes. Yes. Paul R. Feeney? No. No. Barry R. Feingold? Cindy F. Friedman? No. Ann M. Goby? Adam Gomez? No. Adam G. Hines? Patricia D. Jalen? No. John F. Keenan? No. Edward J. Kennedy? No. Eric P. Lesser? Jason M. Lewis? No. Joan B. Lovely? No. Mark C. Montigny? Michael O. Moore? No. Susan L. Moran? Patrick M. O'Connor? Yes. Mark R. Pacheco? Rebecca L. Roush? Michael J. Rodericks? No. Michael F. Rush? Bruce E. Tarr? Yes. Walter F. Timmelty? John C. Velas?
Pursuant to the remote voting procedure adopted by the Senate, the chair will announce the vote of Senator Edwards.
No.
Lydia Edwards votes no. Nick Mullins? No. Julian Sear? No.
There's no audio right now on purpose. Looks like the Senate is just calculating the results. You will see that happen throughout the process.
Pursuant to Rule 57, the court officer will have to stand the votes of several members are recorded. The clerk will call the last names only.
Barrett?
No.
No. Chandler?
No.
No. Cream?
No.
No. DiZoglio?
No.
No. Feingold?
No.
No. Goby?
Yes.
Yes. Hines?
No.
No. Lesser?
No.
No. Montigny?
No.
No. Moran?
No.
No. Pacheco.
Yes.
Yes. Roush.
No.
No. Rush.
No.
No. Timilty.
Yes.
Yes. Velas.
Yes.
Yes.
Have all members been recorded?
Yes.
Seven members having voted in the affirmative, 32 in the negative. The amendment is not adopted. Same senator offers another amendment, which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 4 by Mr. Tarr, voting eligibility.
Question comes on adoption of the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it. The amendment is not adopted. Same senator offers another amendment, which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 5 by Mr. Tarr, photo identification documents.
Amendment number 4 was not adopted. I know they quickly brought upon. So right now they are going over amendment number 5, which would require 3 identity documents instead of 2.
But only one of them, Mr. President, is required to have a photo. This amendment would require there to be 2 photos. And interestingly enough, or 2 pieces of identification with a photo. And, Mr. President, that certainly is warranted alone by the fact that the purpose of the bill is to issue a driver's license to someone who is not documented as having lawful presence in the United States. But in addition to that, one of the documents that's included in the bill is a consular identification card. And, Mr. President, the CRS report for Congress took a look at that on May 26, 2005, and pointed out in their report the highly debatable degree that one of these consular identification cards can be relied upon, and in fact indicated that it could be a problem of national significance in terms of relying on a consular identification card as a form of identification. But this amendment doesn't look to discount that. It just says that the amendment, or the identifications presented need to contain a photo. Now, it's also very interesting, Mr. President, that the amendment, or the bill itself, charges the Registry of Motor Vehicles with analyzing the validity of a whole host of documents, including birth certificates from around the world and other forms of identification issued in other parts of the world. And, Mr. President, I would point out that the bill would be asking the Registry of Motor Vehicles to conduct that task. And we've learned quite recently about the fallibility of the Registry of Motor Vehicles. We've learned, Mr. President, about a recent incident where thousands of individuals were allowed to get a driver's license without taking a road test. And, Mr. President, one of the things we've learned about that is that subsequent to those individuals being notified to come and take a road test, the vast majority of them did not pass. And so we're taking an agency that's already demonstrated its fallibility, and no agency is perfect, and we're suggesting that it be able to analyze the validity of a whole host of documents, not knowing whether they have the capability of doing that, and assuming that they'll be able to identify what is appropriate and what is not. This amendment merely strengthens the requirement that you show proof of identity by saying you have to have 2 forms of identification with a photo. I hope the amendment is adopted.
Question comes on the adoption of the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it. The amendment is not adopted. The same senator offers another amendment, which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 6 by Mr. Tarr, annual report.
So just to let folks know that amendment number 5, which increases the identity document requirement from 2 to 3, has just been rejected. And so now they are debating amendment 6, which is an annual report, which requires, let me just pull it up. It requires reporting of disqualified identity documents to the state legislature.
A Massachusetts license who's not eligible to vote is not accidentally registered to vote. A few clerks in my district have talked to me about this, and the gentle lady from Worcester talked about some voices who have concerns, and this is one of them. I hope the amendment is adopted. It is bipartisan. It's also bicameral. It was filed over in the House of Representatives, received bipartisan support over there, and I hope that when a vote is taken, it is taken by a call of the yeas and nays.
After when the vote is taken on this matter, will be taken by call the ayes and nays. More than sufficient have arisen. The vote will be taken by calls and nays and nays. The gentleman from Essex, Mr. Crichton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the members, I rise in opposition to this amendment. Again, earning a driver's license in Massachusetts has nothing to do with your ability to vote. Currently, there are many non-citizens in this Commonwealth who have earned a driver's license, such as green card holders, DACA and TPS recipients, folks here on student and work visas. They are not citizens, but despite them having driver's licenses, they are still not allowed to vote. As far as automatic voter registration, which a lot of concerns have been raised throughout the course of the history of this bill, there's a system in place, a system with the RMV, Mass Health, and the Health Connector to make sure that unless you've shown documents identifying your citizenship, that you will not be passed on, you will not move along in the process and on to the rolls and be able to register to vote with our local clerk.
Okay, so actually amendment number 6 was rejected, and now they're debating amendment number 7 by Senator Fatman, which would require the RMV to provide information to town clerks on anyone seeking to use a standard driver's license to vote or register to vote.
Print. It requires that you be a U.S. citizen and a Massachusetts resident and be at least 16 years of age. It identifies the $10,000, up to $10,000 fine or the imprisonment of not more than 5 years. It also requires you to sign under the penalties of perjury stating that you are a citizen of the United States. So you have the deterrence, you have the AVR system in place to prevent it, and then just generally, above all else, a driver's license does not in any way give you the ability to vote. So this amendment is unnecessary under our current laws here in Massachusetts, and also could lead to overburdening our local clerks who are already burdened with so much as it is. I ask that this amendment is not adopted.
The gentleman from Essex and Middlesex.
I appreciate the gentleman's comments, and yet the authors of this bill in Section 9 saw fit to impose a requirement that says the Registrar of Motor Vehicles, in consultation with the State Secretary, shall establish procedures and may promulgate regulations to ensure that an applicant for a Massachusetts license pursuant to Section 8 of Chapter 90 of the General Laws, or a learner's permit pursuant to Section 8B of said Chapter 90, who does not provide proof of lawful residence as defined in Section 1 of Chapter 90 of the General Laws, shall not automatically be registered to vote pursuant to the National Voter Registration Act, and it's cited here, and I won't read the cite. But the fact is that there is concern about this, and the authors of the bill themselves have concern about this, because they saw fit to include a provision to direct several state agencies to figure out a way to prevent voter registration from happening. If that's not the case, if that's not a possibility, then we should remove this provision. But I would suggest that its inclusion is a clear indication of the possibility that this amendment is trying to address.
Gentleman from Essex and Middlesex.
To the members and to the minority leader, I apologize. That was originally part of my talking points. Certainly something that was highlighted in the House debate, that we did include Section 9. Just to provide complete clarity, I can hold up voter registration forms, I can point to different regulations, but for the comfort of the members, and I think this was the deal in the House as well, we wanted to have something in this bill that explicitly directed those folks to take a look at this. I do not have concerns that we do not have the safeguards in place, but including it in here was important to some, and that is why Section 9 was adopted in the House, and we'd like to see that here in the Senate as well.
We'll call the roll.
Michael J. Barrett. Michael D. Brady. No. William N. Brownsberger. No. Harriet L. Chandler. Sonia Chang Diaz. No. Nick Collins. Joanne M. Comerford. No. Cynthia Stone Cream. Brendan P. Crichton. No. John J. Cronin. No. Julian Sear. Sal N. D. Domenico. No. Diana DiZoglio. Lydia Edwards. James B. Eldridge? No. Ryan C. Fatman? Yes. Paul R. Feeney? No. Barry R. Feingold? Cindy F. Friedman? No. Ian M. Goby? Adam Gomez? No. Adam G. Hines? Patricia D. Jalen? No. John F. Keenan? No. Edward J. Kennedy? No. Eric P. Lesser? Jason M. Lewis? No. Joan B. Lovely? No. Mark C. Montigny? Michael O. Moore? Yes. Susan L. Moran? Patrick M. O'Connor? Yes. Mark R. Pacheco? Rebecca L. Roush? Michael J. Rodericks? No. Michael F. Rush? Bruce E. Tarr? Yes. Walter F. Timmelty? John C. Velas?
Pursuant to the remote voting procedures adopted by the Senate, the chair will announce the vote of Senator Edwards. No.
Lydia Edwards votes no.
No, currently, they're just counting the virtual votes.
We are almost halfway through the amendments.
Seven, the court officer will ascertain the votes of several members and record them. The clerk will.
Barrett?
No.
No. Chandler?
No.
No. Collins?
Yes.
Yes. Cream?
No.
No. Seer?
No.
No. DiZoglio?
No.
No. Feingold?
No.
No. Goby?
Yes.
Yes. Hines?
No.
No. Lesser?
No.
No. Montigny?
Yes.
Yes. Moran?
No.
No. Pacheco?
Yes.
Yes. Roush?
No.
No. Rush?
No.
No. Timmelty?
Yes.
Yes. Velas?
Yes.
Yes.
Have all members been recorded?
Yes.
10 members having voted in the affirmative, 29 in the negative. The amendment is not adopted. Amendment number 8, offered by the gentleman in Essex and Middlesex, is laid aside as duplicative.
Yep, and so Amendment 7 did not pass because of 29 noes, and they are also striking down Amendment 8 because it's basically the exact same as Amendment number 7.
Bristol, Mr. Pacheco offers an amendment which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 9 by Mr. Pacheco, debarment of employers who violate certain federal laws from contracting with the Commonwealth.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Plymouth and Bristol.
Yes, Mr. President, I ask that I have clarification.
Lotta, do you mind coming off mute and explaining amendment number 9?
Yes, let me just grab it. It's basically, oh, it's weird. We don't understand this amendment at all. It has nothing to do with driver's licenses. It basically says that if you are a company, an employer, and you violate federal laws, you can't do business in Massachusetts. I don't know what his motivation was, but it has nothing to do with licenses. I'm surprised that the chair allowed it, since it really has nothing to do with this bill.
Thank you.
The
Lady rise.
Before the body.
For what purpose does the gentlelady rise?
Mr. President, I'd like to speak on this amendment. The rules has determined that this amendment is beyond the scope of the bill. Thank you.
Great, they just struck it down because, like Lotta said, it's beyond the rules of the bill.
The gentleman from Essex. Yes, for what purpose does the gentleman call the chair?
I would ask unanimous consent to make a statement.
Chair, well, without objection.
About these questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, through you to the membership. Obviously, very disappointed that this has been ruled beyond the scope. The name of the bill is the Work and Family Mobility Act. Let me repeat that. The Work and Family Mobility Act. The amendment seeks to clarify what happens in the work setting so that people that are working in various companies in the Commonwealth that are doing business with the Commonwealth would be compliant with state and federal statute. This amendment, in the form of a bill, has had hearings, has been reported out favorably a few times, and it simply requires that companies in the Commonwealth that are doing business with the state comply with the law to make sure that they're not unfairly treating people in the immigrant community, that they're not being unfair in terms of the payment of wages. Company A can be compliant with the law. A company B could not be. They're in the same business, and one company has an advantage in the competitive edge because they're not compliant with the law. Is that really what we want to do here? So I'm finding it very difficult to understand how an issue that deals with work is ruled beyond the scope when the very title of the bill is the Work and Family Mobility Act, Mr. President. If I can continue, and I won't debate the rest of the bill, I want to thank the leaders and so many people that have put the time and effort into this bill to try to respond to so many in our society, in our economy, that are finding it very difficult because of the lack of a federal immigration reform bill to be able to survive here in the Commonwealth and throughout the country. I am as concerned as anyone about these individuals. But as the gentleman from Acton, I believe, said earlier, and I quote, one of the provisions that are so important in this bill, quote, is the freedom to go to work, he said. The freedom to go to work. Well, under federal law, there is no such freedom. As a matter of fact, people without the right documentation are prohibited under federal law from going to work. And yes, we need all of these fellow human beings of ours to be able to go to work, be able to raise a family, to be a society, and that's why we desperately need immigration reform at the federal level. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have a Ted Kennedy and a John McCain working on this type of legislation again? We don't see that happening at the federal level. And so there are promises made to so many people that are out there right now paying attention to this debate. And unfortunately, they're going to find out that for so many people that had hope in the language and the legality in this bill, that they would be included to be a full part of our economy, in our society. And at the end of the day, they're going to find with the language that is before us that this bill really overpromises. And we are not talking about the issues that they have advocated for. And for many, this bill won't help them at all. As a matter of fact, the bill puts in place a Band-Aid that will not stick as we move forward, which undermines, in a way, the support for federal immigration reform.
All right. I think just to give a quick recap to folks, since I feel like Senator Pacheco is going to keep going on for something unrelated to our bill, is that they have voted on 9 amendments and none of them have successfully passed. And so there are 11 more amendments that need to be voted on. And so once Senator Pacheco finishes up, we can start to move on. And so once all the amendments have been debated and voted on, then there will be the final vote on our bill, which is what we're all looking forward to.
But I'll just give you an example of what one police chief said to me, and in a minute I'll begin the quote. I had my district director actually reach out and follow up and try to get them on the phone. I've heard from many of them, either via email or text message, and I'm going to be talking to every one of them, hopefully some more while the debate is going on. And my district director actually was an immigrant himself. Came here a number of years ago and had an interesting job that he retired from a few years ago, and is now working for me part-time. He was a manager in the registry of motor vehicles offices, not just one, but several registry of motor vehicles offices. He understands the internal dynamic that takes place in the registry, the challenges that they have, the lack of technical support that hopefully will be added, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done here if this is going to work out correctly. So I want to quote one of my chiefs, and there are at least 3 or 4 of them that feel exactly the same way. And so when we quote that the mass, big city chiefs are all on board, well, I'm not in a big city chief district. I'm here in southeastern Massachusetts in a very different district with very different issues. By the way, my district director speaks Spanish, Portuguese, Creole, French.
All right. Would anyone be mad if I just paused him and started playing some music? Like, he's going to go on for like 7 other minutes at this point.
Do it, Heba, do it.
All right. Any song requests?
I'm just saying, he just said that his district director speaks Spanish and Portuguese. I just...
Yeah. That makes him not a racist, right? That's what that means?
And it's so funny because like most of his police chiefs in his district support this bill, and he keeps citing police lack of law enforcement support.
Sorry, Heba, before we play some music, Michael has a question in the chat. Yes. What is happening? Michael, we're just currently hearing from Senator, and he just won't stop talking about his amendment. So
anything that comes from Bristol County is usually, slightly racist.
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah. And I think to just give folks, because I know a lot of folks have been slowly trickling in. So right now they are debating amendments, and so they need to debate and vote on the amendments before they can do the final vote on the bill. And so they have gone through 9 amendments so far, and none of them have been passed. And most, to no surprise, outside of this amendment from Senator Pacheco, who's a Democrat, the rest have been introduced from Republicans. And so we have 11 more to go before we can get the final vote on the bill. But Senator Pacheco is holding us up.
Unfortunately.
Oh my God, he's still going.
I can play some music in a second. He's still going. It's been like 12 minutes.
Well, I think it's over now.
Is about mobility. Gentleman from Essex and Middlesex, Mr. Tarr, offers an amendment which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 10 by Mr. Tarr, disclosure of information to any agency of the Commonwealth.
Gentleman from Essex and Middlesex, Mr. Tarr.
Thank you, Mr. President, and through you to the members. Mr. President, one of the most important things in enforcement of the law and with regard to this bill is the ability to communicate between law enforcement agencies and the Registry of Motor Vehicles. And, Mr. President,
I think just a quick run through of what amendment this is. So this is Amendment 10 that, to no surprise, has been introduced by Republican Senator Bruce Tarr. And Lada, correct me if I'm wrong, but this amendment stipulates that the RMV must provide any information on any license holder to any Massachusetts state agency in regards to civil and criminal investigation.
Right, so it's a very broad amendment, and what happens now is obviously if the police are, if there's an investigation about something and the police need information from the registry or from another agency, they can always go to court and get a warrant, or they can follow special procedures to get it. But he's just saying, just give over all the information, no matter what, the investigation is, just give it all over to all the other agencies. And of course, we don't want that.
And in fact, we've seen repeatedly over the years the consequences of the failure of law enforcement to be able to communicate. And so what this amendment does is suggest that the regulations that the Attorney General is to develop has to, at a minimum, require the registrar to provide information on the holder of a Massachusetts license in response to any request from any Commonwealth agency pursuant to any civil or criminal investigation. It seems pretty commonsensical to me, Mr. President, that if we're going to issue these licenses and we're going to put stock in them to enhance public safety, then we need to allow the folks that are charged with our public safety to be able to access information about them at a minimum, in addition to whatever else the Attorney General might develop after the fact, after we pass this bill, after we put these licenses out, after we put drivers out on the streets. who have obtained the licenses with information which may or may not be accurate. In fact, one of the other instances that I find interesting is that if the documents that are presented for identification purposes in another section of the bill are not in English, then they have to have a certified translation, but the bill doesn't mention who does the translation. So with all of these uncertainties, we still have a situation where a law enforcement agency who needs that information, who's depending on it to protect our public safety, can't necessarily access it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But in addition to that, Mr. President, I would point out that I know there's some concerns about sharing information for the purposes of the enforcement of our immigration laws. And Mr. President, this amendment does not affect that because it speaks to Commonwealth agencies, and we don't have any agencies that enforce immigration laws. So I hope that this very simple, straightforward public safety amendment would be adopted, and I think everyone can agree to it. If we're going to issue driver's licenses, and they say Massachusetts driver's license, then they should be subject to the same sharing of information as everybody else's driver's license. To carve them out doesn't make sense and is not justifiable and it's not defensible. Mr. President, I hope the amendment is adopted, and I hope that when a vote is taken on this matter, be taken by a call of the yeas and nays.
When a vote is taken on this matter, be taken by a call of the yeas and nays. Those joining will please rise. More than sufficient having arisen. The yeas and nays will be ordered. The gentleman from Essex, Mr. Crichton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the members, thank the minority leader for his comments. I do rise in opposition to amendment number 10. As I've said at length, and I don't want to be repetitive here today, the various law enforcement groups, including the Attorney General, the District Attorneys Association, the major city chiefs, as well as many sheriffs and other law enforcement officials, were very comfortable with the chief law enforcement officer of the Commonwealth, the Attorney General, to promulgate these regulations. Again, we are concerned that by putting information and exposing many of these drivers to unnecessary information sharing could cause a chilling effect, have less drivers apply for this license, and also potentially put their information in jeopardy. Again, this was done not in consultation in a silo. We had a wide range of stakeholders that believe the Attorney General is the best authority to promulgate these regulations. I ask that the amendments not adopted.
Clerk will call the roll.
Michael J. Barrett. Michael D. Brady. No. William N. Brownsberger. No. Harriet L. Chandler. Sonia Chang Diaz. No. Nick Collins. Joanne M. Comerford. No. Cynthia Stone Cream. Brendan P. Crichton. No. John J. Cronin. No. Julian Sear. Sal D. Domenico. Diana DiZoglio. Lydia Edwards. James B. Eldridge. No. Ryan C. Fatman. Yes. Paul R. Feeney. No. Barry R. Feingold. Cindy F. Friedman. No. Ann M. Goby. Adam Gomez. No. Adam G. Hines. Patricia D. Jalen. John F. Keenan. Yes. Edward J. Kennedy. No. Eric P. Lesser. Jason M. Lewis. No. Joan B. Lovely. No. Mark C. Montigny. Michael O. Moore. Yes. Susan L. Moran. Patrick M. O'Connor. Yes. Mark R. Pacheco. Rebecca L. Rausch. Michael J. Rodericks. No. Michael F. Rush. Bruce E. Tarr. Yes. Walter F. Timilty. John C. Velas.
Pursuant to the remote voting procedures adopted by the Senate, the chair will announce a vote of Senator Edwards.
Lydia Edwards votes no. D. Domenico? No. Trisha D. Jalen? No.
Again, they're just calculating the results right now.
Pursuant to Rule 57, the court officer will ascertain the votes of several members to record them. The clerk will call the roll with last names only.
Barrett?
No.
No. Chandler?
No.
No. Collins?
No.
No. Cream?
No.
No. Seer?
No.
No. DeZoglio?
No.
No. Feingold?
No.
No. Goby?
Yes.
Yes. Hines?
No.
No. Lesser?
No.
No. Montigny?
No.
No. Moran?
No.
No. Pacheco?
Yes.
Yes. Roush?
No.
No. Rush?
No.
No. Timilty?
Yes.
Yes. Velas?
Yes.
Yes.
Have all members been recorded?
Yes.
Nine members having voted in the affirmative, 30 in the negative. The amendment is not adopted. Amendment 11 is on hold.
All right, great. So Amendment 10 did not pass. It was a 31-9 vote.
Unlicensed or uninsured.
The gentleman from Essex and Middlesex.
Mr. President, through to the members, in theory, we are making it much easier for an entire category of individuals in the Commonwealth to be able to get a license. Therefore, if folks do not get a license and are operating a motor vehicle, they should have increased penalties for doing so. It's a very dangerous practice.
I think just to give a quick update, so they are skipping Amendment 11. They're holding off on that, and now they're debating Amendment 12 that has been filed by Senator Boustar, which increases penalties for road offenses if committed by an undocumented individual.
In the Commonwealth, I hope the amendment is adopted.
Comes the adoption amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it, and the amendment is not adopted. The same senator offers another amendment, which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 13 by Mr. Todd.
So Amendment 12 did not pass, and now Amendment 13 is being introduced, which is also Senator Bruce Tarr, and that, and I don't know, Lauda, if you're there, if you want to just give a quick overview of Amendment 13.
Sure, and just to say really quickly, they may have skipped 11.
Yes, they said they were going to hold the debate on 11.
And it's a card that can be obtained by a non-
Sorry.
I'm assuming that 11 will come back. That's the one that we do want a vote yes on. And so now we're up to 13, right? And that's similar to one we saw before. It's a driver's card, which is the kind of card they have in Connecticut and other places, which you can't use for to identify yourself. You can only use it to drive. And the problem with that is that it's a different license than everybody else has. And it's something that we oppose. We want everybody to get the same license so that you can't be discriminated against because of the type of license that you have.
Thank you, Lauda.
And proof that that they have an appropriate name, date, and place of birth via valid documents. And also, in addition to that, Mr. President, establishes minimum vehicle insurance coverage to maintain a DPC and specifies that the owner of the DPC is not authorized to vote in any election. So quite simply, Mr. President, this particular amendment achieves the goal of the bill, of the sponsors of the bill that have articulated it, that they're looking for a way to allow an individual who cannot prove lawful presence in the United States to be able to have a way to operate a motor vehicle without any threat to our voting system, any threat that it would be misused as a form of identification, and still allowing, Mr. President, the operation of a motor vehicle. I hope the amendment is adopted.
Question comes to the adoption amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it. The amendment is not adopted. Same Senator.
And Amendment 13 is not adopted, which is great.
Question comes to the adoption amendment. The gentleman from Essex and Middlesex,
Mr. President, and through you to the member.
And so this is Amendment 17, which would require 2 years of state tax returns in order to apply for a driver's license, which we do not want.
Immigrants to obtain driver's licenses or driver's privilege cards. But, Mr. President, Colorado, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia all require showing some nexus by virtue of state taxes, either having been paid or someone having been claimed as a dependent on a state tax form to be able to achieve the eligibility required for a driver's license. This particular amendment would do that and would require that someone be able to show that documentation for 2 years so that they have some connection to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I hope that the amendment is adopted.
Amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it. The amendment is not adopted. Same Senator offers another amendment, which the clerk will read.
It was not adopted, which is great. And then now they're moving on to Amendment 18, which I believe is just, I think, another amendment for information sharing in regards to voter registration.
And right now we are 100% so far. We have gotten every amendment rejected that we wanted rejected by very wide margins. So we are 100%.
As we've discussed previously, the authors of the legislation that pens before the Senate recognized the threat of automatic voter registration because they installed a provision in the bill requiring that regulations be developed to prevent that from happening. This particular amendment requires whatever information is necessary to prevent it from happening be shared with the Secretary of State. Now, one interesting element of this bill, Mr. President, is that it portends that there'll be mechanisms that will prevent automatic voter registration, and yet it specifically says that when applying for a license, there will be no record kept of whether someone has proven that they are, in fact, lawfully present. So if no information is collected and no information is kept, then it's curious as to what's going to be provided either to the clerks or to the Secretary of State to be able to prevent that person from being registered to vote when we don't know if they're here lawfully or not, because the information is not required to be collected. It's just another one of the unnecessary risks that this bill imposes. And, Mr. President, I hope that the amendment is adopted.
So adoption of the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it, and the amendment is not adopted. I'm on 22 now, right? The gentleman from Hamden and Hampshire, Mr. Velas, offers an amendment which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 22 by Mr. Velas, Registrar.
Okay, so that, so Amendment 18 was not adopted, and now they're moving on to Amendment 22, which requires annual training on document fraud to R&B staff. And like I said, we only want Amendment 11 to be adopted, so everything else is a no. And they have been consistently voting to not adopt the amendments with a really good margin.
4 by Mr. Velas, Enforcement Services.
Does anybody wish to be heard on this amendment? Question comes on adoption of the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it, and the amendment is not adopted. Gentleman.
Not adopted, which is great.
Will read.
Amendment number 24 by Mr. Tar.
And so now they're on amendment number 24, which I believe, Lada, I don't know.
Also, Violas, another one by the same senator who didn't even show up today to support his own amendments. And he changed it yesterday, and now it's just completely irrelevant. It's about training.
Okay.
Intended to be used for. So this is completely consistent with what the advocates for the bill have suggested that the purpose of the bill is, and would just require that someone be on notice and affirm that they will not use a license issued pursuant to this section for a purpose that it's not intended to be used for. I hope the amendment is adopted, and I move that when a vote is taken on this matter be taken by call the yeas and nays.
Gentlemen, asked that when a vote is taken on this matter be taken by a call of the yeas and nays. More than sufficient having risen, the yeas and nays will be ordered. The gentleman from Essex, Mr.
President, through you to the members, I rise in opposition to amendment number 25, attestation. Again, for the same points that were made previously, this driver's license does not allow for an individual to register to vote. Nothing in the bill has anything to do with the ability to vote. It's unnecessary to have someone to attest to that. They're already attesting to their citizenship, so I ask the amendment is not adopted.
Be heard on this amendment. The clerk will call the roll.
Michael J. Barrett.
So close, you guys. So close.
Yeah, so I believe they're doing a roll call vote for this specific amendment, which is number 25, which our Senate lead sponsor is opposed, which would require that the license holder won't use it to register to vote or use as identification, which we do not want.
Brendan P. Crichton.
This question, sometimes senators make a motion, sort of a request, that the vote just be a voice vote, so you just say yeas or nays, you hear it out loud. And because there was just such overwhelming support to reject them, they didn't bother to take that roll call.
Yes. Paul R. Feeney. Barry R. Feingold. Cindy F. Friedman. No. Ann M. Goby. Adam Gomez. No. Adam G. Hines. Patricia D. Jalen. No. John F. Keenan. No. Edward J. Kennedy. No. Eric P. Lesser. Jason M. Lewis. Joan B. Lovely. No. Mark C. Montigny. Michael O. Moore. Yes. Susan L. Moran. Patrick M. O'Connor. Yes. Mark R. Pacheco. Rebecca L. Roush. Michael J. Rodricks. No. Michael F. Rush. Bruce E. Tarr. Yes. Walter F. Timmelty. John C. Velas. Michael D. Grady.
No.
No.
Pursuant to the remote voting procedures adopted by the Senate, the chair will announce the vote of Senator Edwards.
No.
Lydia Edwards votes no.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, we are joined by Representative Trisha Farley-Bouvier and Representative Christine Barber, our House leads.
Yeah, so we're standing outside the Senate gallery right now as they're doing this amendment. We're going to try to move a little bit so it's a little bit quieter. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, we just want to be part of the party. Oh, look at here, my friend Michelle Lopez saying hi. Hi, Michelle. It's really exciting to be part of this today, and I hope you guys are having fun at the watch party too.
I just want to thank everyone. There's so many people who have done so much work on this bill for years and years and months, and to be here at this point with all of you is really amazing. So thanks to all of you for all of your energy and heart and work on this bill. Really excited to be here with all of you today.
Yeah, this victory truly is yours. Truly is yours. So we'll have to find a way to get together in person sometime. One big kick-ass party. Yes?
Yes, most definitely.
Thank you for being here. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna duck back into the gallery, okay?
All right, thank you.
Soon. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye now, everybody.
All right, I think they're getting the votes for the phone votes right now. I think they're collecting them right now.
And those were our two House of Representatives lead sponsors that helped make the really great vote happen in the House in, what was it, February, Crusader? I felt like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was in February. I think it was like the first or second week of February, which feels like it was a million years ago.
Or yesterday, I'm not sure.
I think the only amendment left is amendment number 11 after this, which is the one that we want to be adopted and was introduced by our Senate lead sponsor.
Christina's asking how many more amendments? Do we know how many more are left?
Yeah, I believe after this vote, it's just number 11, which is the one that we want adopted by Senator Creighton.
And number 11 just fixes a technical mistake. A few words got taken out accidentally during one of the versions. And so we just need to put them back in. Nothing controversial.
Thank you for that, Laura. So the vote will be the final vote on the bill will be happening after they get through all 20 amendments, which I believe there is one more, which is the one amendment that we actually do want adopted. So we want to be hearing yeses and not no's.
So on this one, we haven't heard the vote yet.
Yeah.
So we'll finish this number 25. Then number 11, where we want a yes. And then to the vote, right? There's no more speeches?
Nope. And thank you to everyone for your patience. I know it's been a really long day. We've been at this since what, like 11 o'clock? And so I think thank you to our incredible interpreters who have been doing all of the interpretation, which is no easy feat. To you, thank you, Laura. To you, Crisaida, and also Andre, who have been incredible co-MCs for the event. Thank you to everyone who has. We've had a consistent 200 to 300 folks who have been on. And I think that just really goes to show the importance of the passage of this bill and how much this means to our immigrant brothers and sisters across the Commonwealth.
And to you, Hiba. Yes. You've been amazing throughout, from day one.
Hiba's making sure the audio stays crisp. Andrea, where will the celebration take place? It will definitely be a celebration, Andrea, but we are not yet done, right? There's still more steps to go, unfortunately, due to our governor and his vocal opposition. We'll have more details after today's vote on what comes next, so please stay tuned. It is an amazing day. You're absolutely right. It's a few hours is nothing in comparison to 20 years. You're absolutely right. We're here.
Pursuant to Rule 57, the court officer will ascertain the votes of several members and record them.
Brady. Oh, no, I have Brady. Barrett.
No.
No. Chandler.
No.
No. Collins.
No.
No. Cream.
No.
No. Sear.
No.
No. DiZoglio. Feeney.
No.
No. Feingold.
No.
No. Goby.
Yes.
Yes. Hines.
No.
No. Lesser.
No.
No. Lewis.
No.
No. Montigny.
No.
No. Moran.
No.
No. Pacheco.
Yes.
Yes. Roush.
No.
No. Rush.
No.
No. Timilty.
Yes.
Yes. Velas.
No.
No.
Just to answer Mireja's question really quickly, yes, this is, we're anticipating, this is not final, of course, that this is not the final step, since the governor has been vocal in saying that he would veto this bill when it comes to his desk. So we're anticipating he would veto. If he does, there will be an additional step in which the House and the Senate need to override that veto. But more to be determined later once we figure out what the governor's next step is. And again, the governor has 10 days from today's vote to...
I don't believe it's today's vote. It's once the Speaker and the Senate President sign it into law, right?
Great. Laura, do you mind correcting me, please?
Yeah, it's just, it can take a few weeks to go through all these very technical steps in the legislature before it goes to the governor. Unfortunately, it doesn't go today. But once he gets it, and of course, I will let you all know, then he'll have 10 days.
Then in terms of why the live stream is quiet is because I think they're just getting the final phone votes on amendment number 25.
Been recorded. Anybody else wish to stand and be recorded? I'm going to close this roll call in 60 seconds. There's outstanding roll call on amendment number 25, offered by the gentleman from Essex and Middlesex. This roll call is closing very, very shortly.
Wellington, they're currently voting on amendment. Oh, looks like
they're in a brief recess right now.
We've just been going through amendments. The Senate is currently in recess.
I believe some of the our supporters and advocates who are inside the chamber right now said that the Senate president just came to the chamber, so that might be the reason why there's a brief recess.
If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. Again, you can put it in your respective language, English, Spanish, Portuguese, and we'll make sure to answer your question. Senate is in recess.
So that'll be in order for the purposes of testing the audio.
They are back in session.
Audio seems to be working.
It was an audio issue, which is the reason why they went into recess.
As soon as the clerk's on the roster. Clerk has been trying to make sure we have everything in place. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The gentleman from Essex, Mr. Crichton, offers an amendment which the clerk will read.
Amendment number 11 by Mr. Crichton, technical.
And so this is the amendment that we want to be adopted. And like Laura said previously, that it's just some technical changes that due to just the bill being, I think they just through the different rounds that some of the words had taken off, and so these just make sure that the technical changes are fixed. And after this, I believe we're going to get the vote on the bill, which is exciting.
So that'll be.
Looks like they're still having audio issues.
Oh, God.
Hey, everybody.
So we do have a technical issue here, so we're going to go into a brief recess, recycle the microphone machine.
All right, well, they are going to go into a brief recess as they fix the audio.
En la banda rebelde que cantaré porque somos chicanos. Porque somos chicanos de East LA. Ay, arriba y arriba. Ay, arriba y arriba y arriba iré. Yo no creo en fronteras. Yo no creo en fronteras. Yo cruzaré, yo cruzaré, yo cruzaré.
Contra leyes racistas en Arizona, ahí arriba y arriba. Ahí arriba y arriba y arriba. Yo no soy de la migra. Yo no soy de la migra. Lo seré, ni lo seré, ni lo seré.
Familia, y arriba y arriba, ahí arriba y arriba y arriba iré. Yo no soy marinero, yo no soy marinero, soy chicano, soy chicano, soy chicano.
Laura, quick question in the chat for you from Jose Cruz. If it passes the Senate and the governor signs it, whoever got a license in other states will be able to transfer? Question mark.
You would have to start the process over here. So you would just get a new Massachusetts license. You can just submit.
I think I understand the question that is in the chat in Portuguese. How many votes do we need to override the veto? If I'm understanding that. And that would be 27.
So if we get 28 votes, he can't veto.
He can still veto. That means we have enough votes to override the veto.
It has to come back. So 27 with 27. So what we're looking for today is what it's probably going to look like when it comes back from the veto, because senators probably won't change their vote. So the way they vote now is most likely how they'll vote if the governor vetoes and it comes back. So we just want to make sure we have at least 27 today. And in the House, we exceeded our expectation. In the House, we needed 105 and we got 120.
And Crystal's bringing up a good question in the chat. Laura, do you mind explaining a little, just briefly, what a veto override is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that, bills become laws in Massachusetts is that it takes a majority vote of the House and the Senate in the legislature, and then it takes the governor to vote yes on the bill. Now, if the governor votes no, there's a process called an override. And it comes back, that same bill comes back to the legislature, and instead of a simple majority, so half plus one, you need 2/3 of each house, the House and the Senate. In this case, it is 27 votes, is 2/3 of 40, and that is what we need to override the veto. So even if the governor votes no, we believe we have the votes to do that.
Mm-hmm. Hiba, would you mind explaining what's happening with the audio?
Yeah, so we are hearing from folks who are in the chamber that the mic system isn't, there's an issue with it being connected to folks who are calling in remotely, which is an issue because they need to be able to tabulate votes for folks who are voting remotely. And so they need to reset the audio system, which is why they're in a recess right now. And so hopefully they're able to fix the issue soon. And then also, I think just a quick update as well for folks who are slowly trickling in and out. We are on the final amendment that is being debated, which is the only amendment we want adopted. And it's an amendment that was filed by one of our Senate lead sponsors, which just provides some technical changes to the bill. And so all other 19 amendments have been rejected, thankfully. And yeah, so once they're able to fix the audio system and do a vote on amendment number 11, then they will move on to the final vote on the bill, which is really exciting.
Right.
Oh. Is that back, Hiba?
No, I think that was someone who unmuted.
Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Maybe. Let me. Oh, yeah.
Senate will come to order. We're under the impression our audio systems are now working correctly.
Right.
Chair will recognize the gentleman from Essex, Mr. Crichton, to continue his speech regarding amendment number 11, technical changes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through each of the members, I was finishing up my speech, but just to quickly summarize it, and again, this is a technical amendment that would add learner's permits to the language of Section 1 and also make sure that we are not in conflict with any federal law in Section 7. Again, technical amendments. I hope they are adopted. Thank you.
Adoption of the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is not adopted. No, adopted. Excuse me. Excuse me. Chair is in error. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. I kind of got on a roll there with that phrase, so I apologize. So, question comes on adoption of the rules amendment as amended. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the rules amendment is adopted. Question now comes on ordering the amended bill to a third reading. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is ordered to a third reading. Third reading of the bill.
An act relative to work and family mobility, House number 4470.
Question comes on passing of the bill being engrossed. Yeas and nays having previously been ordered, the clerk will call the roll.
So now they're voting on the bill, correct?
Michael D. Brady. Yes. William N. Brownsberger. Yes. Harriet L. Chandler. Sonia Chang Diaz. Nick Collins. Joanne M. Comerford. Yes. Cynthia Stone Cream. Brendan P. Crichton. Yes. John J. Cronin. Yes. Julian Sear. Sal N. D. Domenico. Diana DiZoglio. Lydia Edwards. James B. Eldridge. Yes. Ryan C. Fatman. No. Paul R. Feeney. Barry R. Feingold. Cindy F. Friedman. Yes. Ann M. Goby. Adam Gomez. Yes. Adam G. Hines. Patricia D. Jalen. Yes. John F. Keenan. Yes. Edward J. Kennedy. Yes. Eric P. Lesser. Jason M. Lewis. Joan B. Lovely. Yes. Mark C. Montigny. Michael O. Moore. Yes. Susan L. Moran. Patrick M. O'Connor. No. Mark R. Pacheco. Rebecca L. Roush. Michael J. Rodericks. Yes. Michael F. Rush. Bruce E. Tarr. No. Walter F. Timmelty. John C. Velas.
Pursuant to the remote voting procedures adopted by the Senate, the chair will announce the votes of several members.
Yes. Michael J. Barrett. Yes. Cynthia Stone Cream. Yes. Julian Sear. Yes. Diana DiZoglio. Lydia Edwards. Yes. Eric P. Lesser. Yes. Rebecca L. Roush. Yes. Michael F. Rush. Yes. DiZoglio. Yes. Yes.
Just waiting for final vote count. Happy birthday to your son. Promise everybody. In the meantime, if you know anybody who wants to see this moment and they're not currently on Zoom, please feel free to invite them. It's happening any minute now.
Yes, if folks want to turn their cameras on so we can all celebrate together, I know, just so we can kind of emulate as much of an in-person experience as possible. And if folks are getting ready to go off mute, to fingers crossed, scream in happiness and celebrate.
It's happening.
Querida.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Let's go, let's go.
We got this, Massachusetts.
Timothy.
No.
Às vezes tem gente que vai ficar casada aí 6, 7, 8, 10 anos.
Nós estamos ao vivo agora. Vamos ver.
Qual o veredito final, galera?
Veredito final.
32 members having voted in the affirmative, 8 in the negative. The bill is passed to be engrossed.
Congratulations, everyone.
É nóis!
Glória a Deus! Glória a Deus!
Meu tempo!
Glória a Deus!
Glória a Deus! Glória a Deus! Aleluia! Glória a Deus! Aleluia!
Glória a Deus! Glória a Deus!
God bless America!
A Deus toda glória, toda honra. Glória a Deus!
Parabéns a todos aí pela luta. É assim que a gente conquista os direitos.
The working center, congratulations. Congratulations to you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
You're amazing.
Parabéns a todos aí pela luta.
Parabéns a Deus, louvado seja o Senhor.
This was like a finger thing that he was
Is the total boat? Is the total boat?
Glória a Deus! Glória a Deus! Deus seja louvado!
Mídia do
Glória a Deus!
Glória a Deus!
Glória a Deus!
Deus seja louvado!
Obrigado, meu Deus!
What it was the total boat? Anybody knows? Total boat. Anybody knows?
Alegria!
The final vote count was yes to 8 no.
Glória a Deus!
Glória a Deus!
Obrigada! Agradeço também a todas as coalizões.
Deus seja louvado! Glória a Deus!
32 yes and 8 no.
Glória a Deus!
Okay, so now what?
Jesus, obrigado!
All the but they're still gonna do it.
Saber quantos votos foi, ué?
Yes. So now the room is gonna be white. The room is white.
Obrigado, Grupo Mulheres Brasileiras. Grupo Mulher Brasileira, obrigado.
Glória a Deus, obrigado, Jesus! Glória a Deus, aleluia!
Porque aqui no Brasil, jamais
Aleluia! Aleluia! Glória a Ele.
Glória a Jesus. Coisa mais linda. Louvado seja o seu nome. Aleluia.
O Brasil! Brasil! Brasil da América!
Jesus venceu.
Tem que ler também, né? É, minha filha, eu que sei 19 anos dirigindo, tem carteira.
Jesus venceu. Mais uma vez, Jesus venceu. Glória a Deus, gente.
Um ano dirigindo com carteira, com medo de polícia andar atrás de mim.
Momento de agradecer.
Eu já tinha carteira, eu tinha medo de polícia.
Então, tá em 20 anos, Deus vem abençoado.
32. Vamos lá na minha abraço.
O caminho todo.
Também, não tem mais 11.
32, a gente precisava. A gente
Foi
precisava de
aprovada,
27.
mano.
8 não. Mais 8 não, 32.
Pode ser, não?
Peraí.
Foi aprovado. Foi aprovado. Só tem que terminar pra dar. Foi aprovada. Agora,
Aleluia, glória a Deus.
Bora comemorar.
Aleluia.
Por favor.
Glória.
Dois, César. Menina maravilha, todos os semestres comprados com muito bem, todos. Tem que falar na rádio, não tem que falar na rádio.
Comemore, mas com cuidado, dirigindo com cuidado.
Tem bebê dirigir, hein? Gente, por favor.
Glória a Jesus! Você me chama? Ai, glória a Jesus!
A plateia toda brasileira.
Glória a Jesus! Aleluia!
Glória a Deus.
Venceu! Jesus venceu, aleluia! Glória a Deus! Glória a Deus!
Oi.
Quer me pegar?
Eita, que briga, tá no banheiro aí.
Deus, 32 votos, por favor.
Can we find out who voted no? Who were the senators who voted no?
Yes, we can, since they did a roll call, so we know who voted yes and who voted no.
Can you tell us who it is? Who?
Just quickly muted everybody so we can talk about what's next. Let me check that our interpreters are okay. Interpreters, feel free to unmute yourselves for interpretation. I'll give you all a minute for that. Amazing. Congratulations, everybody. This is 20 plus years in the making. We're here. Final vote count is 32 senators voted yes for driver's licenses. 8 senators voted no. We officially have veto-proof numbers to override a potential veto from the governor. So this is amazing news. Question as to if we'll figure out who voted no. Yes, I'm sure those votes will be made public shortly thereafter this afternoon.
I have them if folks want me to share them, the names.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we have the 3 Republicans, so Senators Tarr, Timilty, and O'Connor. Senators Tarr, Fatman, and O'Connor, the 3 Republicans, they voted no. Then we also have Senator Ann Goby, Senator Mark Pacheco, Senator Walter Timilty, Senator John Velas, and Senator Nick Collins. So those are the 8 folks who voted no. And I can also put them in the chat for folks as well.
Thank you, Hiba. Laura, if you still have your questions in the chat about Governor.
Sure, yeah. Congratulations, everybody. My God, what a day. What a day. What 20 after 20 years of fighting for this. What an amazing day. Yes, it has to go to the governor next, and that will take a few weeks to get to him because of technical things that have to happen. And he gets to accept it, veto it, or send back some amendments, some changes he wants made, and we'll see what he does. We expect he will use his veto power. It's what he has said he will do. But it looks like from this vote that we are going to be okay to override his veto. We need 2/3 of the senators and 2/3 of the representatives in the House to override his veto. And by what happened today, remember we needed 27 to have a 2/3 majority, and we exceeded that with 32 votes. So once it comes back from the governor, I think we feel pretty good that we are going to be able to override his veto.
Estimated timeline is depending on when the bill gets to the governor's desk, right, Laura?
Yes. A few weeks it will get to his desk, and then he has 10 days to make his decision.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you everybody for coming to this space. Really glad we were able to provide this space to be together, even if it's in virtual, to celebrate what has been 20 plus years.
And obviously, unfortunately, the fight does not stop, and so we will be following up within the next day about some thank you action steps so folks can thank their senators for voting, because like Laura and Carteira said, the governor, we will need to override a veto, so we need to keep these votes. Unfortunately, the anti-immigrant wave is really loud and vocal, and so we want to make sure that the senators are hearing from supporters that thanking them for their vote that they're taking, so we can ensure a veto override when it comes in the following weeks.
Yes, and we'll be sharing all of the details via email, and it will also be on our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. If you're not already following us on social media, please do so now. Julianne, if I can ask you to please drop the links for the social media in the chat for everybody. We'll have more information after today's vote on what comes next there. But we celebrate today, everybody. Today we celebrate. This is huge. It's huge.
And it's Cinco de Mayo.
And it's Cinco de Mayo. We have coined today, Voto de Mayo. Today's Voto de Mayo. It's great.
Don't hug your loved ones. This was definitely the hardest part. We're not done, but this was the hardest part.
Congratulations to everyone involved, and congratulations to everyone who was here supporting this movement.
Oh my God, I am so excited about this. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you so much for putting this together, and we got this.
We do.
Yes, we do. We have comfortable supermajorities in both the House and the Senate. So as long as we continue to let representatives and senators know that they made the correct vote, you know, so when it gets to an override, we got this.
Yeah, that's right.
Great work, everybody.
Woo!
Really happy. Thank you all.
So excited. Yes.
Thank you, Angel. Inviting anyone else to unmute if you want to say some words in whatever language you would like.
I so appreciate everybody's hard work, and I appreciate everybody's hard work and leadership.
Quiero agradecer a todos ustedes por el trabajo.
Hold on, let's give people
Y
a
también,
chance.
si ustedes pueden mandarnos un correo electrónico, cómo agradecerle a ellos, así email a ellos.
Can you mute yourself, please?
Gracias. Muchas gracias.
We got it. Gracias, Aquiles. Aquiles is thanking everybody for their support making this happen. And Aquiles will see para el correo electrónico. We'll put the email address in the chat. Ronnie, you were speaking.
Wait, we're joined by Crystal. I see Frank, Crystal. Oh my God, Crystal, do you want to say something? Frank, you're muted.
Sí se pudo, mi gente.
Yeah,
¡Felicidades!
sí se pode. Sim, se pode.
E a luta continua.
Obrigado. Obrigado a todos que trabalharam no projeto. Todas as colisões, todo o apoio de todos. Obrigado. Thank you.
Obrigada a vocês.
Obrigado a todos. Are you there, Lenita? Oh, all right. The two of you, I want to, yes, stay congrats. Stay. Can you take the...
You got it. Yay! We did it! Conseguimos! Conseguimos 32 votos! Muito bom! Muito bom!
Lenita, well done, everybody.
Yes, well done!
Good job, Lenita.
Bye, everybody.
Good job, everybody.
My daughter's now quoting Hamilton. You just got the votes. You just got the votes.
Woo! Woo!
I just wanted to thank all of you for all your hard work on this. I'm so thrilled. I can't even express just how happy and how grateful I am to all of you. I testified on behalf of this bill some years ago, and that felt like a long time, so I can only imagine all of you who have been in this fight the past 20 years, and just wanted to thank you for your courage and sticking with it. As the daughter of Cape Verdean immigrants, I know how much this impacts on so many families, and as a social worker, I know that the impacts of mental health and from the distress that is caused every time someone sits behind in their driver's seat to drive their kids to school or to go to work. And so I'm just so thankful. I'm trying my best not to cry. But I'm just so grateful for all of you, and just wanted to thank you again for all of your support throughout this process.
I just also want to do a quick shout out to every single person that never gave up in one way or another. All of us have been involved in this battle, but at the end of the day, you know who you are. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all your sacrifices by putting your family time aside, by skipping those meals, by skipping all the vacation time. Thank you for the work you do day in, day out. I am about to cry, but thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the amazing work that this coalition has done. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Okay.
Welcome to unmute.
I just want to thank everybody who was involved in working so hard for this. I have been following this issue for 20 years. My ex-husband is still an undocumented immigrant, and in the 6 years that we were together, it was just really, it was a lot. It was a lot for him to not be able to get a driver's license. So I'm just so incredibly happy for everyone, and again for all of you who did all this amazing work. I have been an activist and been involved here in Worcester in work like this before, and I know how much it takes, but this was massive. So just congratulations to all of you. This is emotional for me, for sure, and for the friends that I hold dear to my heart that are still struggling with this, and I'm so glad that most likely in a year's time they'll be safe and be okay and not have to endure this type of stress. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Angeline. Maria, feel free to go off mute.
Anybody to get off mute if you want to say some words.
Hi. Hola.
Hola.
¿Me escuchan?
Sí.
Good job. Estoy muy feliz por todos ustedes. Muy feliz. Yo vine a este país hace 30 años y tuve mi licencia de conducir sin documento. Y me ha ido muy bien gracias a la oportunidad que tuve de tener mi licencia. Y he criado 3 niños en este país que han hecho muchas cosas buenas por la sociedad, gracias a tener mi licencia de conducir cuando llegué a este país. Porque podía llevar a mis niños a todos los programas, a todos los sitios y tener diferentes trabajos. Gracias a esa licencia que le he dado gracias a toda mi vida a esa señora que me dio esa licencia sin papeles, con un tax ID de la ciudad. Y yo creo que ellos nunca se van a arrepentir de haber tomado esa decisión. Fue la mejor decisión que ha tomado este estado en muchos años. Darle licencia de conducir a los documentados. Ahora todo el mundo vamos a andar bien en la calle, todo el mundo va a tener su seguro, van a poder venderse más caros, los niños van a poder tener más oportunidades de participar en diferentes programas y los padres van a tener más oportunidades de llegar más rápido a sus hijos. Que tenemos nuestra juventud perdida porque una guagua 3-4 horas para llegar a su casa y uno tiene que salir a trabajar. Con un carro uno lo hace más rápido. Y mucha oportunidad para muchos niños de 18 años que también pueden tener otra forma de ganarse la vida y tienen otra manera de llegar más rápido a estudiar y a los diferentes sitios. Muy buen trabajo para todos ustedes, que Dios los bendiga y gracias por pensar tanto en los demás. Yo soy ciudadana americana, pero me siento ahora mismo como si fuera uno de ellos. Muchas felicidades para todos.
I don't know if the interpretation happened, but in short, Maria is just saying thank you. She herself was able to get a driver's license years ago, which in turn has provided opportunities for her and her children. So we can only imagine the great opportunities that this bill will create for future generations and future kids and future parents and families. So this is really awesome. Thank you, Maria. Gracias. Welcoming anybody else that wants to speak and say a few words. Thank you, everyone. All right, we'll have more information on what comes next for this bill. Right now, we take the time to celebrate and enjoy this moment and hold this moment close and dear to our hearts because it's huge. Again, years and years in the making. So let's take today, we celebrate, tomorrow we get back to work, and tomorrow we'll have more information for you on what comes next. But thank you everybody for joining this space, and I'm sure we'll see you all again very, very soon. The work is not done yet. We'll be back.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Louise.
Bye, Michael. Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, and a huge shout out to our interpreters today. By the way, who did a fantastic job from 11 a.m. till
Os
now.
intérpretes fizeram um trabalho fantástico de 11 horas da manhã até agora. We're still working.
I just turned off the interpretation.
And I was talking.
Ya estamos hablando solo a nosotros.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jeb. Thank you, Asioni. Huge.
Ciao.
Thank you to everyone with
Adios.
Excel and Jeb, as always. Thank you for just continuing to allow us to provide the critical language access.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure to be part of this as an interpreter. I appreciate the opportunity myself. Same here.
All right.
I second that.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm just removing folks
Okay, thank you.
slowly.